Well, the Chas McCormick era has officially ended in Houston. Other players have been given the pink slip. Let's talk about what moves have been made, and are the Astros seeking another major league hitting coach to help them out? Let's start right now.
Yainer Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. He is Brett Chancey. We are the Locked On Astros podcast, your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Astros podcast your first listen on your way to work, on your way home to work, from work, or at work. Wherever you make your listen, go ahead and check us out. Go ahead and subscribe to us. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers. We're getting closer and closer and closer, but we need your help to get there. And between Brett and I, we have over 18 years of podcasting experience, and we're going to be here through all the chaos and insanity that's going to happen this offseason, because it's going to be very unpredictable, to kind of say the least. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Well, we talked about in yesterday's podcast, Brett, that the Astros had to cut down to 40-man roster before Thursday. Well, they went ahead and did their pink slip day a little bit early, and they went ahead and put 5 players on the outright waiver system. So we'll talk about what that means in a little bit. Also, the roster is down to 40 now, or I believe it's down to 40. What does that mean at this point? And hitting coaches name emerged. What does that mean for the Houston Astros, who are out there, and maybe a hot hitting team from last year is out there? So we'll go and talk about this and more on tonight's podcast.
No, yeah, definitely. Look, at some point you have to do in baseball what we say in cut bait. You have to find the guys on the roster that are no longer serviceable or just are in an impasse for their career going forward. They're not going to help you. They're not going to be a part of the equation going forward. And those are 5 players that were outrighted: Chas McCormick, Kennedy Corona, Pedro Leone, John Rooney, left-hander, and right-hander Luis Garcia. So these are guys that they felt like they needed to move on from. I think the Chas McCormick move, the writing was on the wall, especially after this season. Eric, he'll be remembered forever in Astros lore as the guy that made the amazing grab, the guy that hit the ground so hard there was an imprint made and someone took a picture of it. We had the Chas chomp. We had the 1 year where he was hitting opposite field home runs. It seemed like every couple series. And so, what Chas did when he was here, I felt like he did everything he could to help this team win. But it doesn't always end up being that you stay with the team where the fan base falls in love with you. I think fans had kind of moved on. But another surprise name in here is Pedro Leone. Pedro Leone was that guy that they paid like $5 million to when they signed him out of Cuba. He was a little interrupted in his development from the COVID stuff, but Pedro Leone was a guy that was supposed to come up and end up being that 5-tool player, and he is it just didn't work out for him here.
So that's why they're called prospects. They don't always hit, and this is actually one of the last, evidence of the Jeff Luhnow era, with the fact that Kennedy Corona was his last transaction before the incident happened where he was fired. So Kennedy Corona was the last player he signed internationally. So that was way back when. So Kennedy Corona was another player that a lot of people had high hopes for. I know that we had several prospect gurus that thought that he was going to be a really good guy for the Houston Astros. He made his debut, but wasn't really that much of a guy. He had some impact with his speed, but he probably wasn't going to hit a lot. And so these guys might find a spot. The question right now is, do they clear waivers, aka Will they go ahead? They're all basically outrighted. So what that means is that the Astros don't really want them on the roster anymore. So technically they're gone. So if they technically clear waivers, they can come back. But if they just put them on waivers, they can go ahead and work out a trade with another team. But when you say you put them on outright waivers, that means that they're skipping that whole process and they're just going straight through waivers. So they're on the waivers, and if they clear waivers, they can still remain in the Astros organization. If they choose to, I think Chas McCormick can go ahead and elect to be a free agent. But I'm pretty sure most of these guys will probably clear waivers and probably move on to other teams because there's not really, especially with the outfielders, there's not really much playing to be found with the Houston Astros. But Chas McCormick was one of those guys that he had his impact felt with the Astros, not only just during the World Series, but he was a 21st round pick in 2017. And not a lot of people thought that anything was going to happen with him, but he debuted in 2021. He is one of those guys where they scouted, developed, and he turned into a serviceable player. Maybe he just didn't have enough talent, but he had enough to make an impact, and he had the Chas chomp, and he became a fan favorite. But just keep in mind, being a fan favorite, it can only last until the next season, sometimes till your next at bat.
No, yeah, definitely. We're definitely like keeping guys here because it feels good to keep them here. If that were the case, we would have kept Springer, we would have kept Garrett Cole, we would have kept all these other guys, right? So at the end of the day, the Astros have to measure where they are, who they have on the roster, where they're looking going forward, what holes they want to fill. And so with the Astros making these moves, there's probably more moves that need to be made or will be made. And so this team will definitely have a lot of guys with different names on the back of the jersey for 2026.
Yeah, before we start going down to now they're at a 40-man roster, what do they do from here? Let's go and talk about Luis Garcia. I know that he's probably going to miss the whole next season. And this was something, writing was kind of on the wall. Rooney was basically the same situation. I believe he was going to come back at some point during the season, but Rooney didn't really have a place on the Houston Astros this year, and Luis Garcia was not under contract beyond 2026. So as much as Luis Garcia helped us when he was healthy, unfortunately, I don't know if it was the pitch clock or if just the injuries just caught up to him. I don't know what happened there, but he was one of those, you mentioned COVID. He was one of those finds during that season because the Astros were short on pitching, and he kind of came out of nowhere and became a serviceable starter for Houston Astros. So I will miss Luis Garcia. I'll miss what Chas McCormick did when he was supposed to be a big boy, and we're all saying, play Chas McCormick a little bit more. But unfortunately, sometimes things just don't turn out to what you want to be. And that's the risk on these. I know we kind of took a card out of the Major League, the movie with the pink slip. If you haven't seen that movie, great movie, go back and watch it. But sometimes you're going to have to cut bait with some players, like you mentioned earlier. And sometimes it bites you in the butt. Remember some guy named JD Martinez? The Astros cut bait with him, and he went on to have a all-star career.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be Chas McCormick. If I'm a betting man, I don't see Chas McCormick finding an MVP in his future. But yeah, you're right. We have let guys go, whether it be this way or even trading them. Josh
What about
Hader
Pedro
early on
Leone?
in his career.
He could be that guy. We don't know about these young guys,
Pedro
Leone was never given a chance.
Pedro Leone spent 5 years in AAA.
I know.
He's not going to become JD Martinez.
No. I know. We don't. I'm not saying that, but we don't know. That's the risk. But the Astros have just decided that they've seen enough. Like you said, 5 years in the minor leagues. So
5 years in AAA. Or I just look. We're not no, this isn't Teoscar Hernandez either. I would be shocked to see if any of these guys become Teoscar Hernandez or anybody else. I just think Chas had the one good year offensively. I mean, let's be honest. He didn't string together 3 or 4 all-star campaigns. He will go to a team and be a player that comes off the bench and have some key moments in the Major League Baseball season. So Chas McCormick will be employed. Kennedy Corona will find a spot. Pedro Leone will find it. I mean, these guys will get hired. As long as they're healthy and they have a heartbeat and they can play Major League Baseball, they're not going to be homeless or jobless. They will find someone to sign them somewhere. Yeah. Luis Garcia, his time in Houston is done. And I don't necessarily think it was a pitch clock. I think it was just he fell prone to 2 injuries back to back, and that will sink any pitcher no matter what's going on in their career.
Not necessarily pitch clock itself, but having to change his delivery.
Well, change his delivery might be one thing, but I don't think that's why he had Tommy John, though. I think he had Tommy John because
we can argue this all day. But Brett, guys, thank you for making the Locked On Astros podcast your first listen. When we get back, the Astros may be down to 40-man, but if they want to go ahead and add some more players and go and make some more deals this offseason, they're going to have to trim it down a little bit more. What else could be up Dana Brown's sleeve? We'll talk about that next on the Locked On Astros podcast.
Hey, everybody, it's H. House, and I'm here to talk to you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a place where you can go to grab all of your fantasy picks. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Make sure you do that today. If you haven't tried Prize Picks, it's the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Been using Prize Picks during the football season and for NBA tip-offs, and it makes it more exciting. Your favorite players, whether it's Durant, whether it's Jokic, it doesn't matter who it is. Whether it is, I would say CJ Stroud, but he's in concussion protocol. Whether it's Woody, he's injured too. How about Kymie Fairbairn for the Texans? They love kicking field goals. More or less on 2 or 3 field goals, maybe you'll have a winner there. So right now, what the cool thing is, they have, if players leave early due to injury, their injury reboot saves my lineup from a loss. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On MLB, $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Pick, it's good to be right.
Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go and subscribe to us. Go and make us first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, go and check us out. So at the start of the day, the Astros 40-man roster was technically at 37, but there was 8 players on the IL, so that means a total of 45. You have John Rooney, who was on the 60-day IL. He was due to come off the IL at some point this week. So now he is now outrighted, so he's no longer on the roster. You had Luis Garcia, who is slated to come off on IL at some point this week. He is now off the roster. Then you also had Pedro Leone, who was due to come off the IL at some point. He's off the roster now. And then there was one other person I thought. But basically, that's 3 players that were on the IL that are no longer on the roster. So and that opened up those 3 spots, and then you had the 2 other players in Corona and then Chas McCormick. So that's 2 other openings at 5 in total. So technically, the Astros should be at 40-man roster as we speak right now on November 4th at 8:14 p.m. We don't know what's going to happen. The offseason is kind of wishy-washy at times, but I know the Astros have a lot of outfielders, especially if you count Jose Altuve out there. But Jacob Melton, Jake Myers, Jesus Sanchez, Cam Smith, Taylor Trammell, and Shea Whitcomb is technically listed as an outfielder on this list. So do you see any of these guys maybe getting non-tendered at some point?
I I've always said Jesus Sanchez. I just don't know that he did enough to warrant him staying here. Trammell, I mean, he's a low risk, not, I wouldn't say high reward, I'd say medium reward type player. A lot of these guys, I think they're on the bubble, and if they're on the bubble, whether to be out, whether to be non-tendered or not, then what you're going to see is if they remain, that they're going to be competing in spring training. And if they don't get it in spring training, they'll either be assigned to like a minor league contract or they'll just be cut altogether. So, count on the Astros to bring in other serviceable players to be looked at during spring training. Not that guys are jumping from AA to the majors this year like Cam Smith did last year, but I think you've got a few names on there that will probably not make it through the club into 2026.
Yeah, I know that guy, Jose Altuve. I think that he's probably going to be non-tendered. Just kidding. Stop. It's probably going to be if they're not able to trade Jesus Sanchez, I'm pretty sure they're going to non-tender him. And I don't know if there's any takers for somebody like Trammell. They'll probably be they'll keep him on the roster for right now. He'll be a placeholder, but when they need a roster spot, he might be DFA'd at some point because I don't know if he has too much trade value. I still think that Sanchez does have some trade value, so they'll go and hold on to him until the last possible moment. So we'll see what happens. So let's go and look at the infield. You have Carlos Correa, Dubon, Bryce Matthews, Isaac Paredes, Jeremy Pena, Urias, and Walker. I don't see any of those guys being non-tendered, or maybe Urias, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one. He's the most realistic option, I think, to be non-tendered. You're right. But I mean,
but he still has value too. I think that if he can possibly work a trade,
I don't know how valuable he is in trade. But if you have him and he's got control, yeah, you would definitely, but you would have to throw him in with somebody else. He's definitely not going to be a lone trade.
No, you're not going to get a King's ransom, but if you get something for him, so you're not looking to restock your farm system with Jesus Sanchez or Urias. You're just looking to get a guy to put in your farm system. So when I say a trade, I don't mean a blockbuster. He's not going to be part of the next big thing for the Houston Astros, but just some more depth options and that type of thing is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, no, I totally get that. It'll just be interesting to see what calculus they use and who they're going to bring back.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the catcher situation, it's down to Yainer, Diaz, and Cesar Salazar. As much as I love Cesar Salazar, what he can offer, I think that's more as a third catcher. I'm not really sure what I think about him as a backup catcher full time, but maybe he can prove us wrong. This is where they possibly need an extra roster spot, and they can possibly go ahead and bring back Victor Caratini or somebody else. But like I've mentioned, I'm starting to see this talk kind of in Astro Circle that Victor Caratini might get a starter. Like a starter's gig somewhere else, but if he doesn't, he might come back. Who knows what happens? But the catching situation is something that they probably do need to address.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I had a long day. We had had practice and a parents meeting tonight after school. I'm struggling here, but it's interesting what you say about Salazar because. He's a guy that I think if you were to package some players for a trade, he could be someone that you go out and try to dangle out there. I don't know what kind of value a third string catcher has, but he showed viability at the plate when he played games. Eric, he offered value offensively speaking. And that's why when we were talking yesterday about pitchers or free agents, that's why I think guys that are more realistic, mid to low upper range pitchers that they add, it makes sense. That's why I think it makes sense to bring back Caratini to incentivize him to come back. How would you incentivize him? I don't know. He really excels in the quote unquote backup role, and you don't have to call it a backup role. He just platoon catcher, and he gives Christian Walker a rest every once in a while at first, and then he play DH. But he's a guy you absolutely, I think, have to try to bring back and finagle him out of the hands of the other teams in the league.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the Astros will do with the pitching. I don't know if they can really cut bait with too many more pitchers. You have some guys on the IL. Blanco, I think that the Astros are going to hold on to him. Caleb Bort is on the IL, but they'll probably hold on to him. He might be a non-tender or just a DFA type guy. But the other guys are Brandon Walter and Hayden Wisniewski. I think they're going to try to hold on to those guys for the future.
Oh, yeah.
But if you look at the rest of the guys on the Astros roster instead of in terms of pitching, there's nobody else I think that they would probably cut bait with outside of maybe De Los Santos. But he looked really good at times. So I really don't see them really touching the pitchers a lot. And I've seen a lot of talk about, well, why didn't they just DFA Lance McCullers? We'll have to talk about that next. But guys, hitting coach for the Houston Astros, we'll talk about that next on the Locked On Astros podcast.
What's up, everybody? This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action for FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So just like you've heard me, go and head to FanDuel.com, sign up today, play the game at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go and subscribe to us. Go and make us first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, go and check us out. We'll be here all off season, no matter what craziness transpires. We'll be here to kind of walk you through this. So I know that we're talking before this about Lance McCullers before we get to the hitting coaches. But a lot of people said, why don't they just trade Lance McCullers or DFA? Well, I guess they would love to trade him, but DFA Lance McCullers. There's 18 million reasons why they're not going to just cut bait with him. The same reasons why they did not cut bait with Jose Abreu until they absolutely had to. So they're going to see what they can get out of McCullers, whether it's a bullpen role, a starter role, a long relief role, whatever it is. They're going to see what they got. Right, Brett?
Yeah, definitely. Lance doesn't have value. Lance, just outside of Houston, he has value because you're paying him. That's where his value lies. Unfortunately, his injuries have relegated him to that. And I believe he will have a bullpen role. I do not see them putting him in as a starter if they do, I think it's redundant. And I think it's basically beating a dead horse. I think that ship has sailed. But I think Lance can be a very effective long relief guy or middle relief guy for the Houston Astros. And why wouldn't you want to use him in the most effective way possible? And then also you've got to see the other guys, like when are they going to come back? I think Wisniewski is going to do well the next 2 seasons here. I think once he's healthy, he is a guy that really was pitching really well, Eric, for this team. But you do have a lot of dead money coming off this year, so that's a good thing. Gives you a little bit more wiggle room. But what the Astros have done in the past is not what I think they have to continue doing in the future. That's why they let go of their hitting coaches. And that's why they're looking at new hitting coaches that have quite a bit of experience with really solid offenses.
Yeah, I know we're talking about the Padres right here. According to Brian McTaggart, Chandler Rome, multiple sources, the Astros are very interested in Victor Rodriguez. He's one of the finalists for the Houston hitting coach vacancy. Nothing's been finalized, but of course, he's been with the Padres for a few years, and he's worked with some big quality bats over there as the hitting coach. So this will be a solid ad for the Houston Astros. I know if I was just looking at the stats, they didn't really do great offensively last year, but I think that's kind of why they finished behind not only the Dodgers and wasn't another team that finished ahead of them, but their offense was not quite where it should be, but it's kind of right around the Astros area. But I think sometimes just offenses struggle, but maybe he can come here with a new philosophy, a new line of thinking. And the other guy that the Astros are possibly looking at is a guy that Andy Haines. He's a former Pirates, Brewers, and Cubs hitting coach. So he's worked with Joe Espada before. So this is a guy that has a lot of experience. So another guy that has interviewed. They don't know how deep the talks have gone, but you're going to hear a lot of guys that you probably haven't heard of. It's not going to be Michael Brantley, Brett, Jeff Bagwell. It's not going to be Craig Biggio, names that you know. It's going to be names that you don't really know.
Yeah, I think it's funny. You mentioned Jeff Bagwell. People probably cringe and go, "Oh my gosh, not that guy!" Just because of the whole debacle and the influence on the Abreu thing. But yeah, talking about Uncle Mike would be an amazing hitting coach. I mean, you and I talked to Mauricio Dubon, and we talked to him about Michael Brantley and some things that he didn't share on air. And he was one of the catalysts, one of the reasons why that team was able to bear down and throw that combined no-hitter in the World Series and go on to beat the Phillies. Michael Brantley was a big part of that. But I've not heard anyone say anything of remote, even the slightest interest of him being a hitting coach. I think he's enjoying being retired. Maybe 4 or 5 years down the road, he comes in. But I would not be surprised if from time to time he doesn't show up to the clubhouse and he doesn't hang out with the guys or he doesn't work out with the guys hitting.
He normally helps during spring training.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, he'll be around, not in an official capacity, but I think just his presence alone is good. The Astros are going to, I mean, you're not going to go out there and get the hitting coach from the best offense. And a lot of times it's not getting the best guy and I remember seeing Brent Strong talk about this. When he was in St. Louis, he came to Houston, and all the stuff he was coaching the pitchers in St. Louis to do, he coached the pitchers in Houston to do. And then all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh, pay attention to Strami. He's teaching them the right stuff. He goes, I was teaching them the same stuff in St. Louis, but they were getting it and they were performing it better. And they were executing. I mean, maybe that's the deal with the new hitting coaches. Maybe these new hitting coaches come over here and it just breathes in new life. I mean, heck, Alex Centrone went to the Rangers and someone sent me a DM and said, well, I guess the Rangers are going to suck on offense now and not score more than 3 runs. And I'm like,
I was going to say the Astros need to go after the Rangers ex-hitting coach. Come on, let's do that.
Yeah, exactly. No, that would be terrible. Go after whoever the A's hitting coach is. But seriously, the guy with the Blue Jays is phenomenal. That dude's an animal. And I mean, but look, at the end of the day, these are professional hitters. These are guys who have a lot of pride in what they do. And so whoever they get as a hitting coach, I'll trust, Dana Brown and Joe Espada and that coaching staff to make the right moves because they're not trying to get somebody who's going to hurt them. So it'll be good.
So Victor Rodriguez, going back to him, he spent the last 2 seasons as the Padres hitting coach, and he was the assistant hitting coach for the Red Sox between 2013 and 2017, and the Guardians between 2018 and 2023. So he's been a hitting coach at some capacity since 2013. So he's not necessarily a newbie, newcomer. He's got a lot of experience and with some good offenses. If you look at what the Red Sox have done, especially during the 2017 season. I don't think they had any different aids, anything to help them or anything. You're not watching the Apple Watches. Come
Yes,
on,
I
Brett.
see.
Come on.
Yes, I caught the subtle, awkward arm position for the Apple Watch. Yes, I caught that.
Yes, but so I don't think anything's gonna be finalized right now, but it's good to actually hear some names come out, and that's what we're here for all off season. I know at times they'll be like, "There's nothing for y'all to talk about. What do y'all talk about?" This is the type of stuff we talk about, and we enjoy this. We enjoy spending time, and we have about 130 people at one point watching
I love it.
live
Yeah, I love
during
it.
a off season on November 4th. So guys, don't tune out. Tune in to us all off season as we go and keep you up to date to all the latest news going around the Houston Astros, and go and make us your first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, go and check us out, and go and check out Locked On MLB for all the news across MLB baseball. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Go Stros. I'm wiped out, dude.